Hi everyone. Everyone is very welcome here today with us.
We have 12 watching now. I'm going to explain to you what I did to Alana. This is her first live stream, and the first live stream she's doing will be in English to make the things more difficult. And she's going to be the one who is going to anchor this program. She will bring the notices so I can talk something
Yeah,
about
I'm
them.
gonna try to. I'm gonna try to. I don't promise anything, and I'm sorry because my English is not that good. So I'm gonna try it. Promise.
Okay, so
Let's
good. Let's start.
let's try with central bank. Central bank. Actually, no. I want to start with this international news.
I
Um,
think central
yeah.
bank is very, very nice. Bring that one and we go to international news later because the world needs
I
to understand what is happening here in Brazil with this problem we have with central bank.
Maria Socorro said you have no sound, but I can hear you. So I don't know what she's talking about.
Probably is a local problem.
Probably. There we go. Central Bank President is stumbled, but interest rate will drop, says Lula. The president pointed to the growing sign of optimism about the Brazilian economy in his weekly podcast.
Yeah, the problem we have here in Brazil today is that the president of the central bank was designed was chosen by Bolsonaro, who was the right wing president who left after being um, won. The election was won by Lula, and the president of the central bank is the one trying to push out the growth in Brazil today. And we have a very strong problem because we have a problem of demand. It's not a problem of offer. Because we have this problem of demand, it doesn't make sense to keep the interest rate very high in Brazil. We have the highest level of interest rate of all the world. And what means that here in Brazil, people will decide to leave the money in banks, people will decide do not invest, and people will decide say no to consumption because the central bank is offering a very high interest rate. And of course, the private banks will not offer a low interest rate money because the central bank is offering this money, offering a very high interest rate to keep the money away from the people. What the president of the central bank says is that we have to control inflation. But to control inflation in Brazil, what we have to do today is not to keep the money away from the people, because inflation in Brazil before was because we had politics pushing out the value of our currency so they can use this deflation of our currency to export goods and to have a lot of money exporting goods. What we have today is we have a lot of people trying to find jobs. We have a high rate of unemployment. And this is not something you are going to control, keeping the money away from the market. And the interest rates in Brazil today, what they do is exactly this. They keep the money away from the market. They keep the investments away from Brazil because people will decide to leave the money in the bank and not to invest. And this is giving a problem to Lula government because the government wants people go to consumption, do investments, but the central bank is pushing out. So we have a war in Brazil. The central bank saying to people, do not go to investments, do not invest, do not consume, go to consumption. And the Lula government saying, oh, please invest something on the market, please buy something. But this war now for this month was won by the central bank because we have a shortage of 2% of the economy. But before we had a little growth in the economy, but now we're going to the shortage of the economy. So we need to to explain the population all over the world that what we have in Brazil right now is a kind of war between the older president Bolsonaro, who is in charge of the central bank indirectly because the actual president is something that came from Bolsonaro, against Lula, who was the one who was chosen by the people in Brazil to be in charge this year.
Exactly, and that's one of the problems. You can see that all this war is causing a deflation, and the consumption rates that need to go higher so our economy can grow. We just go back and slow down, causing this deflation. June deflation reinforces pressure on the central bank to reduce interest rates. Real interest rates in Brazil have remained the highest in the world for a long time, just like you said.
Yeah, and the problem of deflation is some people think the not economists may think that deflation is something good for the economy, but the problem of deflation is once you have deflation, people start waiting to buy as the economy starts waiting to exist. Something like, okay, why am I going to produce if the prices are going low? Why am I going to buy something today if tomorrow the prices are going to be lower? So deflation keeps the this kind of cycle of deflation, not because the prices are getting lower, because the production is becoming more productive. The deflation causes this problem of the prices going lower because people do not buy, and people keep waiting for the prices get low. But because the prices are always getting lower, the producer is going to stop to produce, the commerce is going to close, and we are going to go to a spiral of economical problems. So this kind of deflation is not something we want. We want the deflation coming from the production. So okay, we have more production now because we have a bigger production. Now the prices are going lower because of the offer. The offer is higher, the prices are lower. But when we have the deflation because nobody wants to buy, because the central bank is saying to people, keep your money on the bank, this deflation is going to cause a strong problem in the future, because this deflation is not something that's making the economy stronger. It's something that is saying to producers to do not produce, and to saying to the market to close the doors. And this is not something we want to Brazil. So we need the people to understand that the central bank president is someone who is pushing the economy lower and lower and lower as long as he can do this.
But have you noticed Brazilian people? Almost everyone have this mindset that inflation is a bad thing. They don't realize that we need inflation to grow economy at some point. So there's a lot of people commemorating and celebrating this deflation. It makes no sense, but all right.
Yes, we need to celebrate deflation when the deflation is something that comes from the higher level of production. Of course, we need to celebrate when the prices go lower because we have a stronger industry that's making a lot of products and the prices go lower because of that. This is something we need to celebrate. But in Brazil, the prices are going lower because people do not want to buy. If people do not want to buy, we have a strong problem that people do not want to produce. And if we stop producing, if we stop the market, how are we going to produce jobs, to produce economy? So this is not the way to grow the economy in Brazil. The way to grow the economy in Brazil is enhancing the production, to have a strong industry and to have offer, not to constrain offer. This constrain the budget so we do not buy, and people they need to offer for lower prices to do not lose the products. So this is something that is not going to work, and I don't understand why the party in Brazil, the Workers' Party in Brazil, do not work this theory in the mind of Brazilian population. They claim to the support for the support of the Brazilian population about this problem. So they claim for support, but they not do not explain the population what is the problem, where the problem is.
Let's keep going. Next, let's see this one. Former minister confirms Bolsonaro's sellout policies. We are going to privatize Petrobras. Although many people didn't believe this was possible, the privatization of Petrobras was being prepared by the government, said Adolfo Sachita. What do you think about that?
That's something that the world needs to understand, because we still have a mindset around the world that Lava Jato and other uh, criminal criminal resources in Brazil. I don't know the word for that, but the criminal trials. Sorry, the criminal trials in Brazil, and one of them that put Lula in prison, the claim they used to support the criminal trials was because they were looking to stop corruption in Brazil. But the problem was not the corruption. The point was they needed a way to privatize Petrobras, and they never had this chance because no president was no president went too far uh, to have like this I don't know the words to say, but to have the courage to
What are
privatize
you
Petrobras. Sorry?
what are you trying to say?
Coragem to privatizar, courage to privatize Petrobras.
Brave.
Mm. No president
Brave.
was stupidly brave to privatize Petrobras. But now Bolsonaro was with everything in hands to privatize Petrobras. And the state coup we had in Brazil was just because they wanted to have Petrobras privatized. And of course, because we found a very large resource of oil under salt, which was the pre-sal, and everything together with the chance of Brazil to develop a new way to explore nuclear explosions for generating electricity and to impulse a submarine propulsion of submarines. The world, the empire was too, how can I say, too devastated with how Brazil was growing, and they needed a way to stop that. This is why they created Lava Jato in Brazil and other kinds of destruction of reputation of Brazilian politicians. And now we have the proof that the claim was made before against corruption, but the aim was to privatize Petrobras. Who said that was the former minister of Bolsonaro, who was the one who lost the election for Lula. So uh, after winning the election, Lula saved Petrobras, which is like the highest public company in Brazil. He saved from privatization, because the aim of those companies, and the aim of Lava Jato, and the aim of all this claim around a fight against corruption was to privatize Petrobras and other Brazilian companies like Eletrobras, which is not as rich as Petrobras, but it's a very important company in Brazil as well.
Which you talk about it in your book, doesn't you? Don't you?
Yeah, I did a book on that, but I don't have the English version, which is something that we need to think about, because this is something that came from the 60s. They tried to privatize Petrobras, to take control of Brazilian production of crops and stuff like that. That's something that they never did it against. They never did it before Bolsonaro, because when Bolsonaro won the election, that very strange election, who that Lula was not able to be voted. when Bolsonaro won, he started doing everything that the other presidents fought against. So this is something that we can understand the election of Bolsonaro as the election of a proxy government of the United States and other private companies who used to do this around the world.
Yes. Well, let's go to this one. Army inspected less than 3% of shooters in 2022, the last year of the Bolsonaro government. Brazil has nearly 800,000 shooters registered, but inspection reached just over 21,000 individuals registered as hunters and collectors of firearms. And this is very interesting because we're talking about police brutal shooting, basically. What do you think about this?
Yeah, this is something that all the world against is against violence now. We have a culture of be proud of love and not be proud of hate. But in Brazil, Bolsonaro was trying to make his private army something very close to what's the name of the group in Russia who was a kind of privatized war army. If anyone knows that, because I just
KGB? No.
no, that one that was on the papers right now is a
Ah,
group.
don't remember. Sorry.
But anyway, the point of Bolsonaro was to have the support of the army industry, the guns industry, to sell those guns here in Brazil. And because of that, he was a kind of the guy who was promoting the violence together. Because of course, there are many who use guns to practice or as hunters, but we have people, violent people, who have had access to guns during Bolsonaro presidency. And today we have loads about near 1 million of guns that was bought during Bolsonaro presidency, and we don't have control over them. And those guns, of course, many of those guns are being used by the crime right now. But anyway, that's why Bolsonaro became president, because the money from guns industry, army industry, went into Bolsonaro election, Bolsonaro campaign, and even today we still have uh, those churches that supported Bolsonaro trying to connect guns with God. As I saw a senator of Brazil saying that the woman who was with a Bible under her arms was with an AR-15, which is a machine gun. So this connection between the proper gun, the gun by itself, the product of an industry with Bolsonaro is something that is very important to understand where the money that supports Bolsonaro comes from. It comes from the guns industry. It came from the industry of crops and stuff like that. Of course, Bolsonaro will be against the local industry. Bolsonaro will be against the local currency. Our money will be always weak with Bolsonaro because he needs to support the crops industry with slaves. That's what Brazilian workers become when the currency is very low, and he needs to make the proper producer of crops for exportation richer by raising the value of the international currency. How can Bolsonaro raise the value of international currency, lowering the value of the local currency? And of course, those are the ways Bolsonaro do to make his to have support for being a president of Brazil, because for the people, for the normal people, he didn't do anything. Microfone.
Let's keep going. New, more doctors or mais médicos program is here to stay and become the standard of healthcare in Brazil, says Lula. This act today is the affirmation that in this country, definitely and forever, the money allocated to healthcare cannot be seen as expensive, but as an investment, said Lula.
This is another program that Lula did in the past and was stopped by the Bolsonaro government. The Mais Médicos, that can be translated into more doctors, is a program that supports the contraction, the employment of doctors outside Brazil. We bring doctors from other countries, and one of the countries we have a partnership with is Cuba, and because Cuba is under United States embargo, uh, what they say here in Brazil, of course, they stupid people from the right wing. What they say is that Cuba is communist, and because Cuba is communist, the doctors in Cuba don't know the medicine. But the problem is, the more doctors program, it came in Brazil. It's not to bring communists in Brazil, but to bring doctors to the places where Brazilian doctors don't want to be, don't want to take those jobs. And because we don't have doctors who want to take those jobs in some places in Brazil, the people simply don't have doctors, don't have access to medicine. And we had this program in the past, and we solved the problem of no doctors at all in some places in Brazil. What Bolsonaro did was to stop this program as soon as he became the president. And why? Of course, because in Brazil we have the medicine main council who controls the price the doctors are going to earn by limiting the number of doctors in Brazil. And because the doctors from outside were in that place in that time, uh, like confronting the doctors in Brazil, the Council of Medicine fought against the doctors fighting against Lula presidency. And now we have in Brazil a very strong problem because Brazilian doctors, they believe that they are not represented by Lula government because Lula is bringing doctors from outside. But the point is, now with this problem, we have the chance to bring, of course, to have a connection with other countries, to help other countries and be helped by the other countries to establish a connection. But of course, we have a solution for a problem that we have in Brazil. That is, in some places, doctors simply don't want to go. And the more doctors program do not give to the doctors from outside the benefit to choose where they are going to work. Of course, they're coming here to work in Brazil. They are going to work where we Brazilians need them. So this is a very important program that was stopped by Bolsonaro and came back now with Lula.
Okay, now let's go international. Lula said, sanction and blockades only penalize the most vulnerable, says Lula regarding the war between Russia and Ukraine. Brazil supports initiatives promoted by different countries and regions in favor of immediate cessation of hostilities and negotiated peace, stated the president. We're a peaceful country. Never. You can go now.
That's
Your
a very
microphone.
important point to make here about how Brazil position itself in this war. Uh, we Brazilians, of course, we have two ways to see the war between Ukraine and Russia, or Russia and Ukraine. But the Lula government, it stands between Ukraine and Russia, bringing the word of peace. what means that Lula is not going to support the way of thinking that Russia was the one who started the war, so Russia needs to suffer embargoes and other penalties, because Lula wants to position Brazil in neutrality, keeps Brazil doing jobs, doing business with Russia, with Ukraine. So Lula is not going to take part or in favor of Russia or in favor of Ukraine, but in favor of peace. Economically saying, this is very good for Brazil because Lula can keep the business with the two sides of this war. But this is a benefit we have exactly because we are not in OTAN, which is NATO. We are not in NATO. We are not in the collision of Russia with other countries against NATO. So we don't have to take a position in this war. We need to take of not the benefits from the war. Of course, not there are not benefits from the war, but we need to take the benefit from neutrality with something that Lula is doing very well. But we here in Brazil, we have two positions. Of course, the left wing thinks that Russia started the war because NATO was going to have a base just beside Russia. And we have, of course, the right wing position who is aligned with the mainstream media and thinks that Russia was needs to be blamed because was the invader and Ukraine was there just playing a kind of kids game and blah blah blah, and Russia came with all the monstrosity and just became it started the war. So we have those two positions, but of course Lula has the benefit of neutrality. He doesn't take one or other position. So we have ideologies in Brazil. We have two sides of thinking in Brazil, but the government is neutral. What's very good for our business and it's very good for us as well because we do not have to receive a bomb not from one side and not from another. We want to stay here safe. We do not want to involve in this war.
Well, I think that we're done for today.
It's time for
Or
you
there's
to
something
to
else?
read some comments because uh we had some people here. We need to say thank for all of them, but I let that with you so you can do the read of
Sure.
comments.
Let's see. This one. Parabéns, Léo, pelo Voice Brasil, Voice from Brazil.
It
Thank you,
means
Aninha. Obrigada.
congratulations, Leo, for the voice from Brazil. So I will translate. So if we have a chance to talk to someone outside Brazil, they can understand. But
Ah,
you can read in Portuguese, so the person is going
parabéns
to.
ao Stoppa, excelente comentarista, excelente.
Oh, he says congratulations to me, and he says I'm a very good. I don't know the word for commentarist, commentator.
No, I don't remember, but it's not commentator. No, let's keep going.
Okay. Anyway, is the one who comments the notices. Thank you, and
Okay,
Macedo.
that's me.
She said, "Good night, people."
Let's see.
Next one.
Wait for it. Oh, Maria Socorro is so cute. Alana, tu é linda de verdade. She's always showed up in your life. She's so cute. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Maria says that she is very pretty, very beautiful. Nadia
Thank
Prado
you.
Gomes, parabéns, Alana e Stoppa.
Which means
Congratulations,
congratulations.
Alana and Stoppa. She is Alana, Stoppa is me. Thank you. Very good this version. Obrigado, Fábio Simões. Ele falou muito boa essa versão. Então, thank you, Fábio Simões.
This one, I really like it, this one.
Thank you. Aninha Meirelles, we are so proud of you too. E ela falou que estamos muito orgulhosos de vocês dois. Muito obrigado pelo carinho, pela presença aqui hoje. Vamos tentar fazer toda noite, até que a gente comece a chegar lá, né, Alana?
Oh,
We will try to do it every night until we can reach someone outside Brazil with our news.
yeah, to be honest, I'm still a little nervous, but We're gonna get there. It's gonna be
You
fine.
did very well.
Sure.
Come on. Keep going. Next one.
Um, there's a classic one. And it's fair.
He said he's not understanding anything.
Which
And
is alright.
Marilda say, thanks, guys. Thank you, Marilda. Aninha Mireles, commentator, you were right. Thank you. And Ricardo Soares Souza, Maria, help provided. Deve ser isso. Help provided. Eu não sei o que é provided. Provided seems to be French, isn't it? Provided. Provided. Laércio Afonso, entendi tudinho. He said that he understood everything. And Ricardo Soares Souza, entendendo só a parte do why, ou seria why. Oh, he said that he understood just why. But do you know, Ricardo, that there is a connection between our why here in Minas and the why. Tem uma conexão entre o why do inglês e o why aqui de Minas, né? Tem uma historinha bem interessante sobre isso. And Maria Socorro, she said, I don't know English, but I found it. What's
Awesome.
the word? Awesome. Okay.
Awesome.
I don't know this word. What is privy?
Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist.
Maria Socorro, o meu nome em inglês eu sei.
Mary help.
Mary help. You are the one who is going to close this live
All right.
stream.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the attention, for being here with us tonight. Really, thank you for the support, especially from the people who doesn't understand English, but it's here just for us. Thank you.
Obrigado pelo suporte de todos vocês que não entendem inglês, mas estão aqui para ajudar a gente a crescer a live.
Night. Night, night.
Boa noite. Valeu.